There are people who are born with open doors, and then there are those who must carve their own with bleeding hands. Tyrese Gibson was the latter. Long before the world knew him as a chart-topping singer, blockbuster actor, or motivational voice, he was simply a kid from Watts, Los Angeles, growing up in an environment that tested faith daily. His father left early, his mother worked tirelessly to raise 4 children, and the noise of sirens outside their window became the soundtrack of his childhood. For many, that noise would have been a lullaby of defeat. For Tyrese, it became the rhythm of determination. He has often said that his neighborhood taught him hunger, the kind that can't be satisfied with food, the kind that only purpose can feed. When you grow up with nothing, you learn early that survival is an art form, and he became its student. School was never just about grades for him. It was a training ground for confidence. He stuttered. He felt invisible. And yet somewhere inside that shy boy lived a performer, aching to be heard. His mother told him, "Use your voice. Don't hide it." That advice became prophecy. At 14, he started singing on street corners, buses, and in local competitions. People stopped, not because he was polished, but because he was pure. His voice carried emotion raw enough to silence noise. And in a city where dreams often die young, that was something sacred. By 17, fate tested him with an unexpected opportunity. Coca-Cola was holding auditions for a new commercial jingle. Tyrese showed up with borrowed clothes and no expectations. He sang one simple line, "Always Coca-Cola," with so much soul that the room went still. That one moment, captured in 15 seconds of national airtime, changed the trajectory of his life. Overnight, the kid from Watts became the voice of an entire campaign. But what most people saw as a miracle was really the result of years of unseen struggle. He had been rejected dozens of times before that call. He had been laughed at, overlooked, and told to get a real job. Yet every no built muscle in his mind, a kind of spiritual endurance that would carry him far beyond that commercial. The money from that first gig wasn't much, but it was a seed. He saved it, kept hustling, and kept singing anywhere that would let him. Soon, RCA Records noticed. When they offered him a deal, he didn't walk in with arrogance. He walked in with gratitude. In 1998, his debut album, Tyrese, dropped, and the single Sweet Lady climbed the charts. The boy from the bus stop was now an R&B star. But even as the applause grew louder, he kept reminding himself of where he came from. He'd visit Watts, talk to kids who were still trapped in the same cycles he had escaped, and tell them, "Your circumstances are not your conclusion." That message came from lived experience. Fame doesn't erase fear. It amplifies it. Tyrese suddenly found himself navigating an industry that demanded perfection while he was still healing from imperfection. He struggled with identity. Was he a singer, an actor, a role model, or simply a survivor? Instead of choosing, he decided to become all of them. He said once, "If you're not evolving, you're dissolving." And that belief pushed him toward acting. Without formal training, he auditioned for John Singleton's Baby Boy. The film became a cultural statement, and Tyrese's performance was painfully authentic because he wasn't acting, he was remembering. The anger, the confusion, the search for manhood without a father figure, those were his truths. Audiences felt it. Critics saw the raw power of a young man channeling real life into art. That success opened Hollywood's doors, but the rooms inside weren't always welcoming. He was typecast, underestimated, and often reminded that R&B singers rarely became respected actors. Yet every doubt thrown at him became a spark. He trained harder, studied scripts, watched legends on set, and learned the discipline behind the glamour. When he joined Too Fast, Too Furious, he understood the magnitude of what was happening. A kid from Watts, now part of a global franchise. But beneath the laughter and action scenes was a man who still prayed before every shoot, whispering, "God, don't let me forget why you gave me this." Fame, however, is a double-edged sword. For Tyrese, the rise came with shadows, family losses, heartbreak, financial stress, public scrutiny. There were moments when depression crept in, when social media turned judgment into entertainment. He could have disappeared quietly, but instead, he turned his breakdowns into breakthroughs. He began writing pages of thoughts, confessions, and affirmations that later became his first book, How to Get Out of Your Own Way. He didn't write it as a celebrity, but as a man trying to hold on to faith. In those pages, he confessed the truth many hide, that even success feels empty without healing. He said, "Don't let your pain turn into your prison." That philosophy reshaped his career. He started speaking publicly about emotional health, fatherhood, faith, and discipline. He visited schools, prisons, and youth centers, telling people that broken beginnings can still birth beautiful endings. His honesty resonated because he didn't preach from a pedestal, he spoke from the pit he had climbed out of. When you've tasted despair and still choose hope, your words carry authority. By the mid-2000s, Tyrese was balancing multiple worlds, recording platinum albums, starring in Transformers, touring, and raising a family. Yet behind the spotlight, he wrestled with exhaustion and expectations. The more he gave, the more the world demanded. But through it all, he kept returning to his foundation: gratitude. He would say, "Gratitude is the gateway to growth." Every morning, no matter how heavy his schedule or his heart, he'd write down 5 things he was thankful for. It kept him grounded when everything around him tried to inflate or break him. What makes Tyrese's journey powerful isn't just his success, but his self-awareness. He's transparent about mistakes. He's admitted to arrogance in his early fame, to letting pride cloud judgment, and to learning humility through loss. He tells young artists that talent opens doors, but character keeps them open. His evolution from entertainer to inspirer didn't happen overnight. It was sculpted by pain, polished by patience, and sealed by purpose. When he talks about faith, he doesn't sound like a preacher. He sounds like a man who's been rescued. "God gave me the mic," he says, "but he also gave me a message." That message is woven into everything he does. Even his social media, often emotional and raw, serves as a diary of growth, a public record of a private man learning to forgive himself. He reminds his followers that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the birthplace of strength. He often recalls the bus rides of his teenage years, the smell of the city, the noise of traffic, the dream that felt too far away. He says, "Every time I drive past that bus stop, I remember that version of me who refused to quit." That memory fuels his mission to tell others that small starts don't mean small destinies. You can begin anywhere and still reach everywhere if you keep moving. Music remains his heartbeat. Whether it's Signs of Love Makin', How You Gonna Act Like That, or later collaborations, his songs are filled with emotion, love, faith, regret, redemption. He once said, "Music is my therapy. Acting is my challenge. Speaking is my calling." Those 3 layers define him: the artist, the achiever, and the advocate. Each one feeds the other, creating a legacy bigger than fame. But what truly elevates Tyrese's story is his refusal to let bitterness win. Many who rise from hardship carry anger. He chose empathy. He funds scholarships, supports single mothers, mentors new artists, and uses his influence to promote unity. He tells audiences, "You can't heal the world if you're still at war with yourself." That line lands hard because it's lived wisdom. He talks about his mother often, the woman who worked double shifts, prayed through tears, and taught him dignity even in poverty. When she passed, he said it felt like losing the compass that guided his soul. But even in grief, he turned loss into legacy, dedicating performances to her memory and reminding others to honor the people who believed in them before anyone else did. Tyrese's career has seen golden moments and gray seasons, but through all of it, he remains a mirror of persistence. He shows that faith and ambition are not opposites, they're partners. He knows that fame is fragile, but faith is forever. He continues to record, to act, to write, to speak, because purpose doesn't retire. If there's one sentence that sums up his philosophy, it's this: you will grow through what you go through. Every syllable of that line is soaked in truth. Growth isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It happens in silence, in tears, in failures the world never sees. But if you keep pushing, keep believing, keep showing up even when no one's clapping, you eventually rise. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. So when you hear Tyrese's story, don't just hear success, hear strategy. Hear the echoes of a boy who refused to let statistics define him. Hear the faith of a man who turned obstacles into oxygen. Hear the challenge of someone who looked at his wounds and decided they would become wings. That's the essence of Tyrese Gibson. The transformation of struggle into song, of chaos into calling, of pain into purpose. After the first wave of fame faded and the spotlight moved to new faces, Tyrese Gibson did something rare in Hollywood. He stayed still. He took time to listen to his own silence, to confront the noise inside his head that years of motion had buried. He admitted later that the hardest thing he ever did was stop running. For most people, slowing down feels like failure. For Tyrese, it became revelation. He said, "Sometimes God pulls you back, not to punish you, but to prepare you." The preparation was painful. His marriage ended publicly, his finances fluctuated, and the same media that once celebrated his smile began dissecting his tears. Every human weakness was amplified into gossip. Every emotional outburst replayed as entertainment. There were days when he felt stripped of dignity, when he questioned why the platform that had once felt divine now felt like a cage. But he also realized that every storm has a secret purpose: to wash away illusion and expose truth. He began to rebuild, not his brand, but his belief system. He found therapy. He prayed harder. He surrounded himself with people who reminded him of peace instead of applause. In one candid interview, he said, "Healing is messy. You don't look inspirational when you're in it." That honesty struck a nerve, because most celebrities hide their wounds. Tyrese opened his. He turned pain into testimony. On social media, he spoke about mental health, faith, forgiveness, and the importance of protecting your energy. Millions resonated with his vulnerability because they saw in him what they felt in themselves: a human being trying to hold on to hope. He often says that his darkest years became his most educational. They taught him who really cared and who only clapped when he was shining. They taught him the difference between fans and friends, between attention and alignment. Out of that learning came a new philosophy: stop chasing validation and start chasing vibration. He believes that peace isn't loud, it's consistent. Tyrese began investing his energy in creation again, but this time from a place of purpose, not pressure. He wrote his second book, Manology, with Reverend Run, exploring manhood, responsibility, and emotional maturity. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He used his own failures as the lesson. That humility made the book a bestseller. It also made him a mentor for thousands of young men searching for guidance in a world that tells them to hide their feelings. He returned to the recording studio with a different voice, not just musically, but spiritually. The album Black Rose became a project of reflection. Songs like Shame and Leave weren't about fame. They were about forgiveness. They carried the ache of a man who had loved, lost, learned, and was still standing. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, proving that authenticity never goes out of style. While many chase the next viral moment, Tyrese chases meaning. He invests in real estate, film production, and faith-based projects. He mentors emerging artists, not by teaching them how to become stars, but by teaching them how to stay sane. He tells them, "Fame without foundation will collapse." He emphasizes prayer, gratitude, and discipline as daily armor against ego. He explains that purpose must always be bigger than paycheck, because money buys comfort, but mission buys clarity. In his motivational talks, Tyrese often recounts the moment that changed his life forever, standing beside his dying mother, holding her hand as she whispered, "Keep God first." That sentence became his compass. When she passed, the grief nearly broke him, but he decided that honoring her meant living right, not just living rich. Every decision he makes now, every film, every song, every speech is measured by that phrase. He tells audiences, "My mother's prayers built the stage I'm standing on." After her passing, he launched community initiatives in her memory. He donates quietly to shelters and programs that support single mothers, because he knows their struggle firsthand. He visits schools in low-income areas and talks to students about vision, discipline, and self-worth. He says, "I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to remind you that greatness is already in you." Those visits aren't publicity, they're penance. Each time he tells his story, he rewrites the pain that shaped it. Spiritually, Tyrese has evolved from believer to builder. He speaks openly about God's grace, but insists that faith without effort is fantasy. Prayer changes things, he says, but discipline sustains them. He wakes early to meditate, writes affirmations on sticky notes, and keeps gratitude lists in his phone. He believes that mindset is muscle, you have to train it daily. He even turned his morning rituals into workshops, teaching others to start their day with intention rather than reaction. When asked about legacy, he doesn't talk about awards. He says, "Legacy is how people feel when they leave your presence." That definition reframes success. It's not the trophies on your shelf, but the peace in your soul. And by that measure, Tyrese has already succeeded. He's also vocal about love, not just romantic love, but self-love, community love, and divine love. Love is not soft, he says. It's structure. He believes real love demands accountability, not comfort. This philosophy spills into his art. His lyrics explore not only passion, but purpose. He sees relationships as partnerships in purpose, two people helping each other reach destiny. Despite years of public scrutiny, he has never stopped being honest. When fans criticize him for emotional posts, he laughs gently and says, "I'm not here to impress robots, I'm here to reach humans." That sentence summarizes his evolution from performer to messenger. He uses his imperfections as proof that grace is real. Financially, he continues to grow smarter. He invests quietly, advising others to learn about ownership. "Don't just spend money, study it," he tells young creatives. You can't pass down a paycheck, but you can pass down knowledge. This shift from consumer to creator, from spender to teacher, marks his maturity. In film, he remains part of the Fast and Furious family, but he approaches it differently now. To him, each sequel isn't just a job, it's a metaphor for endurance. "The franchise keeps going because we refuse to stop driving," he jokes, then turns serious. "That's life, you keep moving, no matter how many crashes you survive." He's also embraced entrepreneurship. He co-founded Voltron Records, launched lifestyle brands, and invests in technology. But he constantly warns that success without service is vanity. "If your blessing stops with you, it dies with you," he says. That's why he gives back, teaches, uplifts. Tyrese's social media presence remains unique, sometimes poetic, sometimes raw, always real. He shares scriptures, family moments, and reflections. Some days he celebrates victory. Other days he admits pain. But through it all, the message stays consistent. Keep faith, keep growing, keep giving. In one keynote speech, he declared, "My biggest accomplishment is not the movies, not the music, it's that I didn't quit." Those words echo through every corner of his life. The boy from Watts could have surrendered to circumstance. Instead, He transformed his story into a survival manual for anyone who ever felt unseen. He tells young dreamers, "You don't need everyone to believe in you. Just one person. You." He reminds them that purpose doesn't require permission. His philosophy of perseverance has turned followers into fighters, fans into believers. When you strip away the fame, what remains is a man who still hears the hum of buses on the streets of Watts and remembers that everything he has came from a single act of courage: showing up to that audition, showing up when life said sit down, showing up for others when he barely had strength for himself. That's why Tyrese Gibson's life resonates beyond entertainment. It's a case study in redemption. He proves that you can fall publicly and rise privately, that failure is not fatal unless you stop learning. He proves that pain is recyclable. You can turn it into wisdom that lights the way for others. In his most recent interviews, he talks about the future with quiet conviction. "I'm not chasing milestones anymore," he says. "I'm chasing moments." He wants to spend more time mentoring, producing stories that heal rather than hype. He dreams of building a faith-based studio where artists can create without compromise. He believes art can be ministry, creativity can be worship. As he matures, his tone has softened, but his message has sharpened. Stay grounded, stay grateful, stay growing. He believes that every trial is a teacher, and every victory is a test. Success doesn't change who you are, he says. It reveals it. And success has revealed a man driven not by ego, but by empathy. So what can we learn from Tyrese Gibson? That struggle is not shameful, it's sacred. That faith is not passive, it's power. That when life tells you no, you can still sing your yes. His journey from a fatherless boy in Watts to a global symbol of perseverance reminds us that the dream is never about distance, it's about direction. If you keep moving toward light, darkness cannot hold you. He closes many of his speeches with the same line: "Don't die with your gift still in you." It's a challenge and a comfort all at once, because every person watching him, every listener hearing his story, carries a gift that the world desperately needs. And the only tragedy greater than failing is never trying. So let this be your reminder. No matter where you start, no matter what you've lost, your comeback is still waiting. You are allowed to rebuild. You are allowed to begin again. Tyrese did, and so can you. He often says that life is like music. There will be high notes, low notes, and long pauses. But if you keep playing, it will become something beautiful. And maybe that's the final lesson. Keep playing your song, even when nobody's listening, because one day the world will.